Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives.
Guys, what is going on with us men? It seems like we're falling apart or fading away. Men's earnings at work have been stagnating for 50 years, and the share of men in the workplace has been shrinking the whole time. We now underperform women in school, and we're the minority on college campuses. We're barely a third of the lawyers graduating today, and we're in the minority of doctors as well. Women are complaining they can't find marriage-worthy men, even though men seem to be everywhere. The reality is that if you're a young man today, you probably don't need to look much further than your own life to see the problem. You see, men are going through a crisis, and in this crisis, we've developed some nasty habits. To get our lives back on track, we will need to break these habits. That's not impossible, and it may not even be as difficult as you think. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the worst habits that are ruining men today, and then we'll point to a simple plan to help you break them and become the man you want to be. You've probably heard the saying, if it's free, you're the product. Nowhere is that more true than on social media. These sites are trying to get your attention and keep it for as long as possible in order to sell your attention to advertisers. In other words, the point is to get you addicted, and the company's algorithms have gotten very good at that. Today, the average teenager looks at social media for nearly 9 hours a day, more time than they spend sleeping. Viewing times grew rapidly during the pandemic and have stayed high. And now, research is emerging linking social media time to depression, anxiety, and stress, all of which has exploded among youth at the same time that social media took over the world. While the links between bad mental health and social media haven't been proven beyond a doubt, a growing number of experts are making the case. One thing we know for sure, social media is cutting into the time people used to spend on other, healthier habits, like exercise and socializing with people in person. Not doing these things can lead to depression. Meanwhile, all the beautiful people living glamorous lives on social media can lead to anxiety and stress, and it can distract from work and other responsibilities, making you feel less successful, even as you're stressed out about all the supposedly successful people out there. And of course, there's one aspect of the internet that's doing damage to men in particular. Now, we're not here to judge you on what you look at on your phone. We admit we've looked at some improper videos ourselves. Who hasn't? But guys, porn has become a major issue we need to address. Back in the day, pornography used to be hard to get a hold of, and doing so was kind of embarrassing. You had to go to a store and buy it from a clerk, then bring it home in a brown paper bag, then hide it under your bed. That kept porn habits to a minimum. But today, porn is at the tip of everyone's fingertips, anywhere, anytime, and it's changing people's brains, literally. The neuroscientific research on porn is only in the beginning, but what we've learned so far is pretty alarming. Did you know porn erodes your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that processes things like morality, impulse control, and self-discipline? It makes the prefrontal cortex underdeveloped, like that of a child. It may be adult content, but it infantilizes your brain. Porn hijacks your pleasure centers and creates a dependency. When you watch porn, you get a powerful surge of dopamine released in your brain. That's the chemical associated with social success and happiness. Even if you're conscious of the fact you're just looking at a screen, your reptilian brain still interprets that image as you being successful in society, you getting the girl, or the guy as the case may be. The associated effects of a dopamine hit are very powerful. You're very likely to come back again and again to porn for an easy hit of that sense of success. But what your reptilian brain isn't realizing, as it makes you feel good, is that, in fact, dude, you're being a loser who isn't getting any and is just watching other people get laid. And here's where the damage really comes in. Because your primal urges are being satisfied with porn, you have less desire to pursue the real thing. Evidence is growing that men who engage with a lot of porn are less likely to have a real sexual relationship, find it more difficult to get it up, are more likely to be disinterested in their sex partner and even less emotionally committed to their sex partners. You may not realize it, you may not want to realize it, but your porn habit is almost certainly making other parts of your life worse. Maybe you've seen this or even lived it. A friend of yours loses a job or just can't find one. They get discouraged about their job search and they take to playing video games during the day. Before you know it, gaming is their full-time activity. Once in a while, maybe they emerge from their room to grab a snack. Otherwise, you don't see them. Like porn, video games have an addictive element to them. But unlike porn, they actually have positive impacts as well. Studies have shown that video games can improve your spatial coordination and your attention span. It can help with both sustained attention and focused attention. But the downside is that video games can be addictive. They mess around with the reward centers of the brain. Like with porn, your reptilian brain interprets success in a video game as if it were success in real life. And since it's easier to defeat a monster or take over a country in a video game than in real life, the reward centers of the brain get lit up more by your gaming than by your real life. And then you want more and more. Instead of achieving things in real life, you achieve things in video games. Worst of all, you expend real energy, real creativity, real time on this, leaving you with less of everything for the activities of your real life. Sometimes it can be really hard to tell the difference between entertainment and addiction. Stop and ask yourself, is this game I'm playing just recreation at the end of a hard day's work? Or is this instead of a hard day's work? If the answer is instead, you know what you need to do. Look at yourself in the mirror. Don't like what you see? You're not alone. Men are going through a crisis of confidence over their masculinity. When they look in the mirror, they don't see Chris Hemsworth or Will Smith. And no wonder. We live in a world of processed foods, excessive salt and sugar, and instant meals with virtually no nutritional value. It's all too easy to eat crap. And if you're spending your time looking at porn, surfing social media, and playing video games, odds are your diet and exercise habits are not good. Grabbing a snack so you can get back to sitting in front of a screen is a surefire recipe for bad health. We are living through a nutrition crisis and an obesity epidemic. A majority of American youth now qualify as overweight. And as for diet, young men are the worst. Younger people eat fewer vegetables than older people, and men even fewer than women. The most important thing to improve your diet and shape is to pay attention to it. Make time for food. Pick one meal per day to pay attention to, and do it right. Make it heavy on proteins and fresh vegetables. Find the vegetables you like and learn new recipes. One simple step like this can help you make a habit of it and get you started on the right track. Now, if you're living in your parents' basement with no job, no significant other, and no prospects, you're likely blaming the world around you. There aren't any good opportunities. I couldn't get into the right school. I can't get a date because I'm fat and ugly. Wah. Somebody call the ambulance. This attitude is all wrong, completely backwards. Time to see this for what it is: a lack of ambition and a lack of vision. Challenges like these are exactly what men were meant for. Maybe it's the way boys are raised today, but men growing up not knowing that overcoming adversity is the role that men were built for. Jordan Peterson, author of 12 Rules for Life, has a useful explanation of this. For women, there is a biological reality that their role is to reproduce, to create new life. For men, the biological reality is to create a world in which women can produce. Men can be protectors or providers, but what they specifically choose to do is up to them. As a man, it is in your nature to pick a role in life. Pick up a heavy load and carry it. But make sure you choose that load. Make sure you decide for yourself the challenges you face in life. Because as Peterson puts it,
yeah, well, you know, partly what you're trying to do in the future authoring process is say, okay, well, what's your highest value? Right? It's the star. It's like, okay, what are you aiming for? You can decide, man. But you know, there's some criteria. It should be good for you. It should be good for you in a way that facilitates your moving forward. Maybe it should be good for you in a way that's also good for the family and the community. It should cover the domain of life. I mean, there's constraints on what you should regard as a value. But within those constraints, you have the choice. You have choice. Well, the thing is that people will carry a heavy load if they get to pick the goddamn load. So, and they think, well, I won't carry any load. It's like, okay, fine, but then you're like the sled dog that doesn't have a sled to pull. You're gonna tear pieces out of your own legs because you're bored.
Simply put, men need to set goals and aim for them. This, more than anything, can set you on a path away from your most destructive habits. Here's an excellent goal you can set for yourself. Become independent of your parents. This used to be a core aspect of growing up, but these days, not so much. And yes, you can point to all the reasons why you're still living at home, rent is expensive in your city, and entry-level jobs pay crap. Or maybe, and let's be honest, you'd just like having someone do your laundry for you. Over the past 50 or 60 years, parenting has changed in a major way. Today, parents want to be seen as their kids' friends. They compete with each other for who has the happiest kids, whose kids have the nicest clothes or fanciest vacations. But in all that, they forget the purpose of raising children is to create independent human beings. So do for yourself what your parents couldn't or wouldn't. Learn to be independent of them. Do what it takes. Take that job in another city, even if it means living in a cramped room in a shared apartment. Maybe you'll make some new friends among your roommates. What you'll find is that your life will be harder, but also more rewarding. The more things you do for yourself, the more of a high you'll get from it. Pretty soon, depending on parents for anything just won't feel like an option. Finally, mental health. We saved this one for last, not because it's the least important, but because it connects to everything else. So many of the issues plaguing young men today, from overeating to porn and video game addictions to failure to launch in life, are linked directly to poor mental health. Maybe you've tried giving up your gaming addiction or your sugary drinks addiction and found you got nowhere. That's because these problems are symptoms of the issues you're facing, not the actual causes. Eating, gaming, watching porn, these are coping mechanisms. What you need to do is to remove the underlying need for those mechanisms as much as possible. So how do we break out of the funk that's gotten us into these bad habits? Well, to put it simply, it means putting the process into reverse. Just as bad mental health leads to bad habits, removing bad habits can improve mental health. To break a bad habit, you need to be aware of it. The first step is to be more conscious of your habit and notice when you've done it. When you do, try to follow up immediately with a good habit. For example, let's say you've just realized you've been scrolling through TikTok videos for 2 hours. Get up and hit the gym or exercycle. This will start to change your habits. Your mind will start to associate surfing on TikTok with doing exercise. And when you feel the urge to get on TikTok, you might find the idea of exercise afterwards unpleasant and not do it. Or surfing on TikTok might give you the desire to exercise. Either way, you're better off. Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman says breaking bad habits works best when you build good habits at the same time. First of all, take it one day at a time. Huberman suggests breaking your day into 3 distinct phases. In the first 8 hours of waking, you have elevated dopamine, adrenaline, and cortisol levels. This is when you're most action-oriented and focused in your day. You're in the best shape to defeat the anxiety, fatigue, and procrastination that lead to bad habits. This is the time of day to firm up good habits. But it's also the time of day when it's easiest for you to get distracted, to fall into bad habits. So watch your actions carefully and focus on those good habits. In Phase 2, 9 to 15 hours after waking, your adrenaline levels are coming down and your serotonin levels are going up. This is the ideal time of day for socializing and for more creative activities like cooking and painting. Remember that one meal you're going to focus on and make it healthy? This is the time of day for it. The third phase of your day is the rest phase, the phase where you recharge to prepare for tomorrow. Proper sleep is critical. Your ability to perform tomorrow depends on how well you recharge tonight. Huberman suggests avoiding bright lights and sleeping in a cool, dark room. This is just a skeleton outline of a route to a better life. You have to fill in the details for yourself. But a daily routine built from this can be the starting point for breaking your bad habits and making your life more meaningful. It really can be as simple as doing something instead of nothing. So get out there and pick up a heavy load. The sooner you do it, the sooner you'll realize it's what you were made for.